an hour of truth for the battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hello, guys. Welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and we are broadcasting from the WYSL studio. I've got Bob Savage here with me.
Well, hello and welcome to another week. Everybody duck.
Yep. It's a little rainy today.
Yeah, a couple of sprinkles, spritzes here and there. It's going to get a lot stormier tonight, but then that sets us up for a couple of other nice days.
Yeah,
what a weekend, huh?
Yeah, the weekend was great. I think I've got some sunburn. I don't know. We'll see.
Got a little color there.
So yeah, we'll see. But got a lot of work done. Got some riding in. Had a good time. Beautiful weather. So we've got a couple interesting things to talk about, and it's maybe most interesting because Friday we talked about how Cuomo said you're just going to have to live with the new norm on the lake.
Yeah, that didn't play too well.
No, now he's flip-flopping on it. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about, you may remember previously on the show, last year, I think. No, maybe it was this year. It might have been past this year during this legislative session. Our legislators voted themselves a raise. Nice, hefty raise at that. And they tried to sell it with some provisions that have now been ruled that they can't do that.
Oops.
Yep. So we'll talk about that as well. But before we do that, I want to share an image with you guys that did really well on the Facebook page over the last few weeks. So for those of you who are watching on the live stream, I've posted it. For those who are listening on the radio and podcast, I'm going to read it to you. This is a post that somebody made, a friend of mine actually, who lives in New York, and it was entertaining. So I screenshot it, of course, to protect their identity and their privacy, blotted out their name and their picture, and reposted it. And of course, there's some snarkiness to this post, but it's pretty straightforward. It just says, "Stop complaining about your life. There are literally people that live in New York." And it was, yeah, it was funny. It was entertaining. And I thought so, naturally. That's why I posted it. Well, a lot of other people did too, because as of this morning, it has over 9,000 shares and has been seen by over 800,000 people.
Struck a nerve.
Yeah. The thing that I thought was maybe most interesting about this is the reactions that I was getting in the comments to this. You know, people who were saying, people who don't live in New York, of course. "I've never heard of anybody complain about New York in my life."
What?
Yeah, which was kind of funny to me, you know. And here's the thing. I had a few people. I had one lady in particular who was very, very angry with the fact that I shared this post, like really angry. She started sending me messages, calling me all sorts of names and things and saying, "My son served 4 tours in Iraq, so I can say these things to you," and just like a whole bunch of kind of like bizarre things.
What's that got to do with the problems that we have in New York State with the high taxes and the ridiculous regulation and no fracking and a psycho governor? I mean...
Yeah. So, and that's kind of, my response to her was, hey, she was like, well, you can find the post that I commented on and see where this came from. And it's like, this was shared 9,000 times. I have no idea like what you're talking about. But ultimately, she actually gave me the link. And what she was saying is that she lived in New York her whole life and she loves it here.
Great.
And I'm like, you know what? I've lived in my life too, or I've lived in New York my entire life as well. And I love New York. I just don't love New York State government.
Sometimes you have to do an intervention here. There's nothing wrong with the state. The state's gorgeous. There's nothing more beautiful than the Finger Lakes in the summertime. But we have to have like a family conversation here. We have to sit down and say, among all of us, we're not getting a good deal from government here. Government is not serving our interests. It's not being responsive. It's pushing these crazy left-wing agendas, much to the detriment of the state. So all we need is good leadership, and things can be good again.
Yeah, and that's really, it's so important to differentiate for people. I think that New York State is a beautiful place. I mean, we have great scenery. Some people really love New York for the weather, believe it or not.
Yeah,
like, people enjoy having 4 seasons.
I don't have a problem with the weather.
Yeah,
I really don't. And I've lived in a lot of places, and some of these places had better weather than, objectively, I suppose.
Sure.
But look, there's always a mix of the good and the not so good wherever you live. And I think on balance that New York's weather is not an issue. But the great thing about New York is its resources.
Yeah, we have great resources. We have great diversity, too. And you see that, I mean, just in Rochester, you see amazing diversity, a ton of different cultures, a ton of just great different foods because of this diversity. I'm a foodie. I enjoy food. So I certainly, see the diversity in culture and the various foods that we have here, but also the festivals we have and the parades we have. And, New York does have a wonderful environment in terms of the people who are here, the things you can see, the places you can go. The problem is we have terrible state government. We have awful regulations. We're taxed more than anybody else in the nation.
We have amazing natural gas resources. If we could
tap into them,
we just get at it.
Sure.
But for strictly political reasons that defy common sense, we're not touching it. And there's the key to the economic malaise in the southern tier of New York. Has been discussed endlessly.
Yeah. So there you have it. But it was really interesting to me. A few people actually commented and said they moved to New York and it was the best thing they ever did. And so I say that's amazing for those people to feel that way. And I think that that's great. In the last 10 years or so, we've lost 1 million people net.
Well, if they moved here from California, I would understand why they feel that way.
Maybe that's where they came from. So New York itself is a wonderful, amazing place. But we have a lot to do. And if you truly value, and something I saw too that this person had posted was like, yeah, I love it when people leave New York State because it makes more room for those of us who are true New Yorkers who really care. And I'm like, that's just the total wrong attitude because you know what? When people move out of the state, your taxes just go up because it's one less person paying taxes. New York's going to get their pound of flesh. So they're just making it more expensive for you to live here. People leaving the state should never be like somebody's goal or objective or something like that. Like you shouldn't feel good that people had to up and leave their families. And I don't know if this person is just going up and buying around people's property when they leave or not. But to me, I would see success in New York State as people not leaving the state. People wanting to move into the state.
If people want to leave, that generally indicates things are wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, when Larry Sharp and I ran for governor and lieutenant governor, that's one of the things we said we would measure success based on. A lot of times you talk about the change you want to bring, and something that we said is, listen, we will measure our success by people not wanting to leave the state. And to me, that's a really good indicator because right now people are leaving this state like there's no tomorrow, whether it's because of taxes, education, just poor work environment, not so readily available jobs, which is slightly improving, but it's improving across the country. It's not just a here thing that's happening. So, you look at all these things and people go to either they want to pay off their student debt or they just want to have a viable family experience and, they go elsewhere. So we need to change that here in New York. Definitely, if we want to have any, positive outlook for the future, you look at things like the Lake Ontario flooding, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next segment. But if we lose a bunch of families on the lakeshore and they relocate out of state, that's just another thing that has to do with government. And in this case, not so much state government. This is kind of it's a federal, international government. It's not as simple just to blame it on state government, but just another way that government has failed and pushed people out of our state, which is just not good.
Well, it's also a statement about government, period. And I just think that as a general proposition, wherever you live, probably especially in places like New York or California, we need to insist on better leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And by the way, for those of you who are playing the home version of our game today, that's why Andrew Hollister was a Libertarian candidate for lieutenant governor in the most recent election, and Larry Sharp was the candidate for governor. And they are continuing on the stump to, change New York for the better by advancing ideas that are not typical of the big two parties.
Yeah, actually, and I heard on the previous radio show, I think it was, that you guys were talking about how, the major two parties, they're just kind of recycling old ideas. They're talking about the same thing that they were talking about basically 50 years ago. And that's one of the things I hope that Larry and I were bringing to the table and still do, where that we talk about ideas that we actually think are fresh and new and that could work, and maybe people will adopt them. So, guys, we're going to take a real quick break here on Radio Free New York. We'll be back in a moment.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations?
Last spot.
Their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York
on the WYSL stations.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and just want to welcome everybody to the show. So those of you who are listening on the various WYSL stations, those of you on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, want to give a shout out to a few of you: Yolana, Aniko, Randy, Michelle, Nate, and somebody on Twitter. I'm assuming it's Charlotte, but since we're in Rochester, it could be somebody listening from Charlotte. Yeah. I'm not sure which one it is. But guys, welcome to the show. And we're talking a little bit now. We're switching gears, and we're going to talk about Governor Andrew Cuomo and Lake Ontario flooding. We talked about this on Friday. On Friday, at that point, Cuomo has said everybody who lives on the lake needs to just accept this flooding as the new normal. You know, say goodbye to your property, say goodbye to your home. So sorry, but not sorry. Just deal with it was essentially Cuomo's message, and just his few words there in that statement. Well, it seems that he's had maybe a change of heart. Actually, I don't think he's had a change of heart at all. What I think probably happened is somebody on his staff was listening to Radio Free New York on Friday and realized how much tax dollars they're going to lose when all these lakefront properties decrease value, and they all leave the state. So now they're starting to backpedal a little bit. They're changing their messaging. But if you look at what he's saying, he's not actually asking for anything to help the people on the lake. And I think that they want people to think that that's what he's asking for, but he's not. In fact, what he's asking for, and he's threatening to sue the IJC, who is responsible for implementing Plan 2014, which essentially allows the lake to hold more water.
The IJC standing for International Joint Commission, which has nothing to do with legalizing pot.
No, it does not. Yeah, it's not the International Joint Commission. It's the International Joint Commission. So represented equally by Canada and the United States, part of a treaty, and their purpose is to monitor, maintain water levels on the lake. Well, they implemented Plan 2014 in the end of 2016, if that's not confusing for everybody, which in 2017, we then had record flooding on the lake. Immediate problem. Yeah, immediately after the highest levels in the last century.
Well, until this year.
Yes. And then here we are now in 2019, exceeding that record by another 2 feet. So last week, because I think the lake levels have gone down a little bit. Last week, the lake levels were 5 feet above the historical record for the last 100 years. So people are looking at this and saying, looks like Plan 2014 was a terrible idea. Now, I don't know that Cuomo ever came out against Plan 2014 until these last basically 48 hours. I didn't see anything. He may have. But now he is saying that the IJC, the International Joint Committee, needs to reimburse New York State $100 million.
No, we're getting to it. It's all about money. And by the way, money. I just want to toss something in here from a source that we learned from here at the radio station. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the hydro power plant in the St. Lawrence has had a couple of record years in terms of electricity generation and is making record profits. Yep. Once was in 2017 and once was in 2019 thus far. Just saying. Yeah. You know, I had read some stuff about the power plant. I didn't have enough details to really talk about it in an educated way, but I did come across some of that data that seemed very interesting to me that I would like to dig into a little bit deeper. The other thing I've heard is that the shipping industries, since the levels have been so high, have been able to bring in larger ships that carry more shipping containers, and are also seeing some really nice profits from all the damage that's happening to people's properties. Follow the money.
Yep. So this is what it comes down to, guys. Cuomo is trying to sound like he cares about lakefront property. But when it comes down to it, he's not asking for $100 million to assist those whose homes have been damaged. In fact, what he's asking for is $100 million to give back to the state of New York, which is just very telling where his mind is. Also is interesting, that's just what they want for the 2017 flooding. Supposedly, New York State spent about $100 million in repairs and assistance in the 2017 flooding. We are today at tens of millions of dollars just with what's happened so far. This to me was interesting because I saw this and I saw, wait, now Cuomo's all of a sudden against this. Now he's asking for $100 million to reimburse New York State, not the taxpayers who pay his salary, by the way.
Yeah, whose homes have been trashed.
Yeah, whose homes have been utterly destroyed. I met another person over the weekend who's dealing with this, and he said that the water levels in his basement are now approaching the insulation on his floor to his first story floor. He says when he walks out to the mailbox, there's about 4 inches of water. This is really, and guess what? It's so funny because he didn't know who I was. He didn't know, that I talked about this just a day before on the radio. And he was like, yeah, we're looking to sell. We're looking to sell. We're looking to move. He's like, the moment that the water gets into a bearable situation where we can get the house dry, it's going on the market, and we're trying to get out of here.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. A lot of those lakeshore properties are now coming on the market, and the prices are already depressed from where they were.
Yeah. And it's interesting because also this week I actually got the letter in the mail from the city of Rochester saying that it's now time for them to start reassessing properties. And I think they said they do it every 4 years. I think every 4 years is what the letter said, either 4 years or 2 years. So if that's the case for some of this other lakeshore property, they're going to go through and they're going to see these properties. Part of how you assess the value of a property is you look at recently sold properties that are similar and in a similar area and what price they sell for to determine property value. Well, what you're going to see is these properties along the lake who have gone through this flooding, they're going to sell at a lower rate. So now your property value, maybe you bought this house for $150,000, $200,000. That's going to be pretty low on the low end for lakefront property. You paid that into it. Maybe you only get 120, maybe get less than that for it. You've already just lost a ton of money there, but also, the towns, the villages, the cities who are collecting this property tax, guess what? The rolls are going to be down. They're not going to get as much tax dollars, which as a libertarian, don't get me wrong. I don't like property tax at all. I'm not a fan of the government taking your hard-earned money. But this is just a reality check right now for all the towns that depend on that money and all the communities that depend on that money. What is going to end up happening, in my personal opinion, they're just going to raise everybody's taxes to make up for the difference. And that's what's going to happen there. So what Cuomo is doing is saying that the IJC needs to give New York State $100 million. And if they don't, he is going to sue them. So there it is. New York State will probably not. I don't know that the IJC even has money to give.
I was going to say, are they judgment proof?
I don't even know
assets?
I don't think so, because I remember looking through the plan in 2014, and they talked about funds, and the funds were like minimal, like really, really small dollar amounts. So with that being said, I don't know that there's even $100 million to give. And I'm assuming Cuomo knows this. So now he's just using tragedy of other people to kind of push his name in the media, keep himself there, make it look like he's fighting for the average New Yorker. And really, he's not even fighting for that. He's
posturing.
Yeah. So that's... Politicians
never do that.
Yeah, I've never seen that before, especially not in New York State. So, yeah, just another way of state government, stepping kind of over everybody else, looking out for itself, not looking out for people. And I think that we're just going to continue to see repercussions.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're totally right about the approach here is, this two-pronged thing that Cuomo came out with is, I'm going to sue for $100 million, and then I want the lake levels lowered to benefit the property, owners, the lakeshore property owners. Well, if you're not really paying close attention, it's very easy to, I lost the word. Very easy to connect those two issues when you really probably shouldn't. He's not talking about $100 million for us guys.
Yeah. No, he's talking about...
Conflate. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah. No, so that's what's happening here. The other thing that's interesting is the Plan 2014 that was implemented that seems to be the driving cause for this flooding. One of the major pushes was for climate change. So now is Cuomo essentially suing something that was caused by something he's been pushing for, essentially, or pushing towards?
Yeah, he was all in on his Plan 2014.
Yeah, so now you've got this interesting thing where it's I want $100 million for you implementing something I was for. It's weird. So,
and the IJC's got members from New York on it too, so aren't we suing ourselves?
Yeah, I think that New York has been very well represented on this committee, if I remember correctly.
At least recently.
Yeah. And I think before too, because I think I remember some local people being interviewed. All right, guys, we're going to take a real quick break here on Radio Free New York, and we'll be back in a moment.
You're listening to the voice of liberty. WYSL. AM 1040 Avon, Rochester. FM 92.1 Rochester. FM 95.5 Spencerport. And WYSL1040.com everywhere.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
We'll treat you like family at Mark's Pizzeria. We'll treat you like family at Mark's Pizzeria. Great pizza, fresh and good. Simply the best in your neighborhood. Come in, we'll get to know you. We'll call you by name. We can bring it to you any time of the day. Mark's Pizzeria. We'll treat you like family. Mark's Pizzeria.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and
last spot.
The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York on WYSL. AM 1040, FM 92.1, and FM 95.5 West.
All right, right, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and we're just talking about a whole bunch of stuff in New York. It's Radio Free New York, so we got a lot going on today. One of which is interesting. So I don't know if you guys remember, if you're a veteran, longtime show listener, you probably remember us talking about New York State legislators voting for their own raise here in New York, which that just sounds...
And a really big honking raise, too.
Yeah. And I tell you what, and nowhere else do you get away with this sort of thing. Right. I mean, only government allows you. Yeah. My thing is this. If you were a state legislator and you want a raise... it shouldn't go to some committee that you control and then you vote on it. If you think that you're doing a good job, why not put it on the back of the ballot as a referendum and let the voters decide if they think you deserve a raise or not? So clearly that's not what happened. What ended up happening this year was that state legislators, so I believe this is Assembly and Senate, and Cuomo, governor got raised, a whole bunch of positions they got raised. The state lawmakers, as they call them, went from $79,000 a year to $130,000 is what they're going to be getting. There's a 20% increase this year, then I think a 20% increase next year.
Right, that's the important thing.
Yeah, and then at the end of 2021, they're making $130,000.
But more than that, these guys can get assignments on these committees. They call them Lulus.
Yep.
And plus they get these stipends all the time. So they're... Yeah, a lot. I don't want to say most, but a lot of them are going to be pushing $200K.
Oh, easy.
And these are nitwits, by the way.
Yeah.
These people are morons. They couldn't work in the McDonald's drive-through.
Mm-hmm. Well, and not just that, they get a state vehicle, I believe.
I don't know about that.
Pension. Well, I know some of the assembly people drive a state vehicle. I'm not sure.
I guess, yeah. I mean, like Gant had one. He crashed one last week. I guess, I don't know if it's seniority based or what the deal is, but I guess they can get vehicles. Generally not, but in some cases.
Really good health care.
Oh, yeah.
Pension, so a whole bunch of stuff that we'll just never get as citizens in New York. So one of the things that
by the way, don't forget they work 6 months a year, folks.
Yeah, if that, they're in their idea of work is they have interns and staffers that do the majority of the stuff for them. When you pick up the phone and you call your elected official's office, they're not the ones answering the phone. It's a staffer who answers the phone, and maybe you're lucky to talk to these people.
Well, yeah, and then the staffers have to deal with all the icky, like low-life little constituents that I don't want to touch and I don't want to listen to.
Yeah. So one of the things that they really marketed this raise as is a way to eliminate corruption. That's what they said. Like, hey, if we give state lawmakers a raise, then they won't be so apt to accept bribes and engage in illegal activity and all this stuff. And so first off, by putting this together, they in a way, we're admitting that we have a serious issue with corruption in Albany, right? And there's no disputing it. I mean, you just look at the people being indicted and thrown in jail and investigated. In New York State, we have a serious corruption issue in Albany. No questions asked. There was a study done somewhat recently. I forget who did it, but New York State was ranked the most corrupt state in the nation. So there you have it.
Which is saying something when you consider Illinois in there.
Sure, yeah.
Well, we have the last four mayors, or was the last four governors? No, last four governors.
Governors were recalled, right?
No, they're in prison.
Yeah. So
they're in the clink.
Yeah. So we're doing, we win in all the wrong races. I say this all the time. That should be my tagline. Radio Free New York. We win in all the wrong races. But it's true. So here we are. Albany is so corrupt that we're going to now pass legislation to fix the corruption by, wait for it, giving the corrupt people more money. Okay, let's just soak that in for a minute. Now, here was their, but this is how it's going to fix it angle. They said, we're going to give them more money, but they won't be allowed to accept outside income. And that was their like anti-corruption piece. This whole idea that, you know, you would make more money so that you wouldn't hold a private sector job in addition, you know, or get some other job in addition. So that's what ultimately ended up passing. Now, the outside income did not cap Lulus or any of those stipends or any of those other things. So they could still get their Lulus. They could still get those other, you know, little bonuses here and there from the taxpayers. But you couldn't be, you know, a state assembly person and the CEO of a five-star bank or something like that. Well, guess what happened? The state attorney filed a lawsuit against this, which is weird, you know. So state lawmakers pass a law, then the state attorney files a lawsuit against them, and the Republicans also file a lawsuit about it to have it overturned. And lo and behold, the judge rules that they can't do that. They can't cap their outside income. There were a few reasons, one of which was really interesting. As a part of the ruling, they ruled that the transparency that was necessary wasn't there and that they were having secret illegal meetings. So we're going to curb corruption by having secret illegal meetings. Great. Awesome. No, but so what this really means is for the average New Yorker, for you and I who are sitting here, who when we receive our paycheck, see that we're losing a good chunk of that paycheck, and a portion of that is going to New York State government and paying these people now close to a 45% raise. I mean, that's what these numbers end up coming out to, is about a pretty close to a 45% raise.
Highest paid legislators in the nation. By far.
Yep. And higher than California, which a lot of people would think that California would be outdoing us. They're not. We're outdoing California in this aspect. So what this comes down to for you and I is simply that they passed this as an anti-corruption thing, saying we're going to give them more money, but they can't accept outside income. Now it's we're going to give them more money and they can get the outside income. So really there was no actual benefit to this being passed. I mean, I personally didn't see benefit to it to begin with, which is why I talked about it on the show and opposed it. But now for anybody who maybe supported this saying, yeah, but you know what? It really will prevent corruption because they can't accept outside income. Now that doesn't exist anymore. It's been overruled in court. Can't happen. So just another really frustrating thing happening in New York State.
Well, at the government level, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what I didn't do? I really should have done this. I should have searched exactly how many elected officials this impacts and seeing how much more this is going to cost us annually. You know, my guess is it impacts at least 100 elected officials, I think. Does that? What do you think? Between the Assembly and the Senate and other state officials.
Was this not across the board? Did I misunderstand this?
I think it's any state legislature. I don't think it's like county ledge doesn't count because like county level position.
No, this is state lawmakers. This is Assembly and Senate.
Yep.
So, you know, I mean, what was it, 140 in the Assembly?
Yeah, it could be. So.
And then you'd have 62 senators, so like about 200 people.
Yeah. So 202 there as a minimum, and then where are we looking at? Basically an $81,000 raise. Is that right? Or am I adding? Hold on. Let's see. 130 minus 79, 51,000. Yep. So times
$10 million.
Yep.
That's what the increase is.
So we're looking at an extra $10.3 million a year just on salary increases.
But that's annually, though. I mean, this is a recurring thing. So, over 10 years, you're talking about $100 million for these nitwits.
Yep, $100 million.
For what? Why are we paying this kind of... Listen, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, in Texas, the state legislature only meets once every 2 years.
Yeah. No, and
they're paid $7,200.
Yeah, I think in Arizona they're volunteers.
It's
a volunteer
New Mexico.
unpaid position, or New Mexico.
You're thinking New Mexico. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So, and Jay on Facebook here is like, wait, we beat New Jersey? Yeah, we beat New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No. We're number one.
Yeah.
We're number one. Homer Simpson.
Yeah. So it's an issue. And you look at this, and once again, it's a part-time job.
What is the purpose? I mean, why do they have to be compensated like this? Well, it's because they can't get jobs elsewhere.
Yeah. So if you took $130,000 a year and you just divided that up, we're talking 6-month job, right? So let's divide that by 6 months a year. So you're making $21,000 a month per month that you're working. So let's divide that up by 30 days. And how many hours a day do you think these elected officials?
Oh, listen, I know. We used to have a legislator. We had a member of the assembly who was on the radio here every day, the Bill Nojay, and he told us what it was like, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, like 80% of the time is just wasted
time.
They just sit around waiting for something to happen, or it's some procedural thing, or it's naming a post office or some other
goofy stuff.
Do nothing bill.
So let's just say, just for fun, that they're working 40 hours a week times 4 weeks in a month times 6 months a year, 960 hours. 960 hours divided up by 130,000. They're getting minimum $135 an hour. Minimum. Now, somebody might say, well, what about taxes? They actually get a special tax rate too. So they're not paying taxes like we are. Guys, we're going to take another break here on Radio Free New York. We'll be back in a moment.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
I'm Las from Action Towing and Service. The people really make this place incredible. I feel at home. I love what I do. I love the people that I work with. The owner of the business is actively involved. He is a veteran. We have a very close relationship with all of the staff. Every employee there is known by name, and we really, really work hard on giving that home feel, or the family feel. Please give us an opportunity to win your business. Come down and visit us at 275 Marketplace Drive, right off of Jefferson Road.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York.
Hey, real quick, run down the platforms you're on.
Oh, yeah. So we're on, here we are. We're on Radio Free New York. We are on, obviously, the WYSL stations. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitter. We are on Facebook, Periscope. You can find us just about anywhere. If you want to listen to the podcast, the cool place to go is YouTube. Subscribe there, hit the little bell. You'll get notified every time I go live, and you can go through and rewatch all the shows. Sometimes I put up funny little pictures for you guys, so it's a little more enriching when you get to see them on YouTube there. But also, while we're doing the show, you can actually call in as long as we're live, 585-346-3000, and ask a question or give some input. Or if you're listening to the stream live on the internet, and you're on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, you can go ahead and comment in on the show. I check through the comments throughout the show, throughout the breaks as well, just to make sure I can respond to some of you. I know I can't respond to everybody, but I do my best. And yeah, it's a good time. And actually, I'm looking through the comments here, and Michelle posted that it was a year ago today that you were live with Luke, and I first heard of you guys. So she's referring to Luke from Olean. He came and met with Larry Sharp and I, and live streamed I think it was maybe a hour-long interview where we were just talking about various things going on in New York State. And we've actually got a pretty decent following in Olean, believe it or not.
Well, signal goes down there, so.
Yeah. And so we've got some listeners down there. It's great. And yeah, it's great to see how far we've come since then. So it's definitely really good. Jay commented in and said, "You need to play the intro to No Jay's radio show. It sums up New York perfectly." So I don't know if the radio station, you guys probably still have that somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe one of these days we'll dig it up. And
that got reprinted in the New York Times, of course, as a sardonic kind of thing, where they were kind of like saying, "We can't believe that somebody's actually saying this daily on the radio. We think it's dumb."
Yeah.
But I mean, we did write that intro. And it neatly summed it up. We'll have to see if we can find it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're just kind of wrapping up the discussion about New York State legislators getting paid a ridiculous salary for what they do, being able to vote on their own raises, which nowhere. You can't do that anywhere except for government, where you get to say, we're all going to get together and we're going to vote on how much more we're going to get paid this year. How does a 45% increase sound to you? Does 45% sound good?
Yeah, and only in government can you fail miserably at what you do and get promoted.
Yeah.
And get still more money.
Yep. Yeah, and if you look at our metrics, right? If you look at New York State and you look at how you would measure success in New York State. I think a lot of people, if you were asked, how would you measure success in state government? They would probably say some things like education rate, probably tourism, influx of people who want to move in, various rating scales, how much they're paying for taxes, what's a gallon of gas cost. Like, I think they would probably center around those sort of things. Property tax would be huge. Income tax would be huge. Sales tax is kind of iffy. Some people really don't seem to care about sales tax. So if you look at all those things, man, we're failing everywhere. Some of the highest property tax, if not the highest property tax in the nation.
Highest population loss.
We've lose, and this is something that sometimes people, they hear me say and don't know totally what I mean by this. When I say we've lost 1 million people in New York State, I'm not talking about including people who have passed away. This is people who have actively got up.
These are live people, folks.
And left. But not just that. It's actually way more than 1 million, because that million number is actually based on it's a total loss after people have immigrated into New York State. So say 500,000 people moved into New York State, that means 1.5 million left to get you to that net loss of 1 million people. So it's not just 1 million people who have left. That's just what's left after people have immigrated in. So it's a big issue. Even New York City now is losing population. For a long time, it was just upstate. Upstate was losing tons and tons of people, and New York City's population was still increasing. Well, even New York City's population, they're starting to leave.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, now they're starting to see population losses in the city of like 30,000 people a year.
Yeah.
That's a pretty steep loss.
Yeah, and percentage-wise, as big as the city is, that sounds like a small number, but you have to think about the fact that they were growing and now they're not.
Yes,
now they're losing.
And plus it's cumulative. Now, by the way, our intrepid Bobby D has found the No J intro.
Oh,
I don't know if you wanted us to play that for the benefit of who's a listener listening for that?
Jay. Yep, Jay mentioned it.
Jay, okay, so. Jay, you asked for it. No sooner made than played. Instant request. Here's the old No J intro. Behold New York, the once legendary Empire State, where corruption, waste, and laziness stultify the Albany legislature. Big unions, the education lobby, and enviro whack jobs push New York's already intolerable tax burden to outrageous new heights. The state's best and brightest flee to saner states, leaving a crumbling socialist New Age penal colony disproportionately populated by malingerers, criminals, and self-serving grievance groups, perennially attached to the teat of a bloated and indifferent government. Can anyone save New York? Is it worth saving? One person thinks so. And this is where our dear friend Bill Noje would jump in, and he would always start off with, "It's a beautiful day in New York."
There you go.
I'm wistful for the Bill Noje days. He was a great friend.
Yeah. And a couple people actually just commented in saying, "Thank you so much, blast from the past." So he's well missed for sure. So somebody else commented as I'm reading. It's funny because sometimes if I'm reading the comments live, you get a laugh out of some of these. Michelle says, somebody should do an Escape from New York escape room. So she's referring to those rooms where you get locked in, you got to find all these clues to get out, and the thing is though, in my opinion, if somebody created an Escape from New York escape room, there wouldn't really be clues for you to get out. You'd basically just be imprisoned. And then what would happen is if you did regular common things, you'd be locked up even longer. And then, to get your way out, you'd have to like bribe officials, pay all these like taxes and fees. And then finally they'd let you out of the room if you had enough money to get out. I just, a brief little thing on that, but,
you have to make campaign contributions.
Yeah.
That's how you get out of the escape room.
Contributions. You'd have to, post bail for yourself, pay an extreme amount of tax.
They keep you in a flooded cellar.
Yeah. You'd be in a flooded cellar. It'd just be really. It would probably make like a really good YouTube, like a good 10, 20 minute YouTube skit that would go absolutely viral. But it would
probably get you deplatformed.
Yeah. But it would just be so painful to watch. Like you'd be laughing, but you'd hurt inside because you'd know that's like your daily life that you're going through. Like, oh yeah, I got stuck with that tax too. And a parking ticket. I don't even have a car. Like how'd I get a parking ticket? It's New York. So, yeah. All right. So bringing it back together here. Something that I really keep talking about, the idea that I'm going to talk about is this statement of principles from the Libertarian Party for our local candidates. So I guess in the last few minutes here, I've gotten the show. I'll tell you guys what I'm hoping to do over the next few weeks here. One of them is raise a little bit more money on Patreon so we can actually expand the show into a 5-day-a-week show. So if you guys are listening here, you've made it all the way through the first, 53 minutes of this show so far. and you're enjoying the show, you feel like there's good information here on the show, and that it's of value to you, and that it's helping us change heart and minds in New York State, which is why I'm seeing, because as I hear people talk about the show, people who I've met, they say that the show is helping them see things in a different light and helping them learn different things. I would love for you guys to go over to patreon.com/RFNY and support the show. There's a few different supporter levels. It's a monthly support thing. If 1 month you don't have it, you can obviously cancel. There's no commitment or anything like that. But for less than a cup of coffee a week, you can help us grow the show and help us reach more people and expand this message and educate more people. So that's the first thing I want to ask you guys for, is to consider heading over to Patreon. It's patreon.com/RFNY and supporting at some level to help us grow this show. And then what my goal to do for you guys as the show expands is I've got a running list of officials or people or candidates who are going to be running for various offices here in November. And my goal is to get them here on the show so that you guys can ask them some hard questions, hear about what they stand for, and get to know these people way in advance before the election, because you might want to help that person get elected. That person might make a difference for you. So that's the plan moving forward. I'll let you guys know what the schedule is when I have it. But for now, I will catch you guys on Friday on Radio Free New York.
Only $147 a month. Only $147 a month for a new $26,000 Patrick Buick Encore. Only $197 a month for a $29,000